Hey, we're live. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, Tracy is our moderator today. She'll be corralling the questions. Feel free to ask me anything about the singing voice, learning to sing, voice science. I'll do my best to answer. If I don't know the answer, I will tell you and try and point you in the best direction. Um, let's see, Jackie, I am having trouble with regaining breath control and hitting repetitive high notes consistently following bronchitis in December. I am 71. Um, what can happen is when we get sick and we're coughing, um, it obviously irritates everything. And not only can it take a while for the voice to really come back to baseline, but we also deal with compensatory efforts in the body as we're coming back to singing. When the vocal folds are swollen, it's like thicker strings on your guitar. It takes more tension. And when we come back to trying to sing, and perhaps even a little too soon, although we should, as soon as possible, be stretching and working the voice, but really trying to sing, the body will adapt and it often maladapts and brings in extra muscles, recruits extra muscles to try and help get the pitch. And now that is activating likely when you go to sing. So it could be a combination of that, perhaps some residual swelling that's still continuing. Here's what I would do. I would make sure that you're staying very well hydrated. I would also do a lot of, if you're able to do lip bubbles, I would do those throughout the day, whenever you think of it. And simple glides up and down to really stretch this tissue. Um, Getting sick like that, it's kind of traumatic on the instrument. So just working the instrument, working the tissue, and gently coming back to singing. Let's see. I am suffering from muscle tension dysphonia. I'm training to be a singer. Do you recommend voice rest? Thank you. Um, so, muscle tension dysphonia is when excess muscle will jump in and it will create a dysphonia or an interruption in the phonation of the voice. So the voice may just grab and strangle. Now, with my voice, I was diagnosed a few years ago with an essential vocal tremor. Um, and this vocal tremor, when it was first starting to show, my body, my nervous system started to adapt incorrectly by grabbing to try and calm the tremor. And I wasn't sure what was going on. I thought for a little bit I had MTD. Now, MTD, it's also one of those catch-all diagnoses. And I have talked to laryngologists and speech language pathologists who have told me it is often overdiagnosed. It doesn't mean you don't have it, but just be aware that this is often diagnosed. I don't recommend voice rest. Complete voice rest is just allowing everything to weaken. Sometimes MTD is a reaction to weakening of the voice and the muscles of the vocal tract, etc. So I would work, and I preach these constantly, um, just like with Jackie. Use SOVT, semi-occluded vocal tract exercises. Use lip bubbles, use straws in water. And what helps me when I feel my voice want to grab, here's a good exercise, is we do an asthmatic breath and bring your hands together. And then almost that surprise, like, what was that breath? You want to be here, not here. So just consciously doing that as I work the straw. So this is a Dr. Vox. It's a straw and bubble. I feel that expansion. I'm keeping that feeling of expansion the whole time. That can begin to help offset that. Um, Let me see. We've got questions coming in. I'm going to jump over here to the list. Some people sent in questions beforehand as well. This is one. Kaylin asks, I am 62 and getting my voice back in shape for an exciting project. Great. Something new that has happened is I'll be able to comfortably hit the low notes in a song at the beginning, and then the song soars higher. When I come back to the lower parts, I'm not able to hit the low notes as comfortably. I'm doing SOVT. So she's doing a lot of the things that you do um, when you feel that your voice isn't behaving correctly. What's likely happening is the higher notes, there's probably some amount of excessive press. And that excessive press will cause slight inflammation on the vocal cords. Now, when you come back to the low notes, that slight inflammation is stopping them from coming together properly and getting a good seal. Because low notes, you don't have the tension to help you close them. So what I would do is, first of all, make sure those high notes are balanced. And then on the low notes, make sure you come back to a very bright sound. Very often when people have trouble singing lower, the voice is too dark, the larynx is too low. So for my voice, I'll practice a very bright ah, 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 e, 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 e. I'm keeping the ah sound in the e. That brightness is necessary. On low notes, the pitch that we're singing doesn't have as much energy. So by keeping it bright, we are bringing out the more energetic parts of the sound wave. That's how operatic basses are able to fill a hall, is they keep the voice on those low notes bright so that there's that high energy that helps it carry. Um, Jeff asks if I work with people with vocal cord paresis. The short answer is yes, but depending on how extreme your paresis is, I highly recommend going to a speech language pathologist. The best speech language pathologist I know is Carrie Obert. Carrie was instrumental in helping me get my voice back. I was losing my ability to speak properly. My voice would just begin to shake uncontrollably. And she is not just an SLP, she's also a voice teacher, and she's a researcher, and she does online lessons, and she's absolutely brilliant. And that's where I would send you, honestly. Let's see. When singing, is it good to breathe through your nose or your mouth? Thank you. That's a great question. When you're able to, breathe through your nose, because that is actually moisturizing the air as it travels through your nasal passages. We're really meant to breathe through our nose. It is the healthiest thing. I have a deviated septum, and I'm not sure what happened. I think one of my dogs may have broken my nose. We have bulldogs, and yeah, they have very large heads that will lunge at you. But sometimes at night, I have trouble breathing through my nose, and I end up breathing through my mouth, and that is not optimal. You want to breathe through your nose when possible. However, when you're singing, especially a fast line, you're not going to have time to breathe through your nose. So what you want to do is, as you're talking, it's very quick. You want to make sure that you open your vocal folds all the way. It's that feeling like when you're exercising intensely. The opening or the glottis of the vocal folds is as wide as it can be. And that's your intake of breath. It's silent. Otherwise, you're dragging air across the vocal cord. So all you have to do is pop your belly out. You got a full tank of gas and you're ready to sing the next line. Let me see, I'm 76 and I have no breath control whatsoever. I had surgery on my vocal cords a few years back and it never really came back as it was. This is Jermaine. Um, so it depends on what that surgery was. There are a number of things that can be going on here. Um, you may not be getting full vocal fold closure. I would ask, is your tone really breathy? Do you have trouble getting a focused tone? Because we may need to strengthen that. Also, just working the lungs. It's a recent study where they had singers um, use resistance when breathing in, and they used a little device. Here's mine. Okay. This is called a breather voice. And what this does is you have variable resistance on the inhale and the exhale. And this is to work your lungs. Now, what they did with these singers is they just worked the inhale. And by working the inhale, you have to work harder to bring the air in. And it's the muscles of inhalation that really become your muscles of support. And they believe what it did was it increased the connection of awareness from the brain to these muscles. Because when you go to sing, we have to keep these muscles engaged. These are like the brakes on the car going downhill. So this feeling of expansion. And as I'm pressing my breath out, I'm also pressing out. I'm not letting everything collapse in. So it may be a combination of working your lung strength, your not lung strength, but stretching the tissues of the lungs, and then also the muscles of inhalation and their engagement. Um, as we get older, we have to constantly work against weakness in the body. Um, right? As I keep saying, the age of 60 is not the time to become a couch potato. We have to work. We have to exercise, or it degrades much quicker. Let me see. Pete has a great question. Let me just get some tea here. I'm a big fan of throat coat tea. Nothing directly touches the vocal folds that you drink, but it feels very soothing. So even any placebo effect is real. I'm a huge believer in it. So I do placebos for myself. Pete asks, could you talk about the art of delivering a song with feeling, i.e., paying attention to the lyrics, embellishing the melody, and singing with rhythm? So this is a big question. This is actually, I have a full course in voice school that is specifically on this singing with emotion. Where I get this, I had the privilege, as did Tracy, we studied with a brilliant acting coach, Carol DeAndrea. And the first time I went there was an Oscar winner sitting in front of me. So I was immediately intimidated. But and I wasn't an actor. I was learning the class was how to sing with emotion, how to act your song. And she taught me a very powerful yet simple method of using intentions, emotional intentions. So rather than just trying to feel sad in a song or feel happy, that's too vague. You need action. And what intentions are saying, I want to blank. So if I sing something like, no more talk of darkness. So if my intention is to warn, no more talk of darkness. If my intention is to comfort, no more talk of darkness. I am going to change my tone. I'm going to change my phrasing. I'm going to change my intensity. Everything is going to change based on the emotional intention rather than me making it very mechanical and clunky. So I would start looking at what emotional intentions are. There's actually a dictionary of emotional intentions, but you can certainly go on Chat GPT and just say, give me a list of emotional intentions. and you make them very deliberate. Why is the character saying this song? Because I want to blank. And you can have one intention through a whole song. You can have intentions change on every line, depending on the emotional context of it. And you can, on the same line, you may change the intention on each performance. Carol shared with me she was working with the lead in Phantom of the Opera and playing Phantom. And he loved this so much once he got this working that he would try different intentions each night for the same piece of music. And what that did was it made every night new. He never got tired. He was actually excited about finding new approaches to the music every single night. Let me see, I'm 55. When singing, saliva seems to produce much which affect my tone. What could be the issue? Thank you. So now when you say saliva, are you talking about saliva in the mouth, or are you talking about thick mucus on the vocal folds, because or vocal cords? Because those are two very, very different things. If it's excess saliva in the mouth, I don't have an answer for that, honestly. That's usually not the issue as people get older. What happens as we get older is we produce less mucus. And and what we do produce ends up being thicker. And that thick mucus on your vocal cords is not good for phonation because your vocal cords have to open and close hundreds of times a second, over 1,000 on extreme high notes. So we need to keep this mucus very thin. And there are a few things I recommend. First is systemic hydration. In your system, you have to drink fluids. As you age, you tend to feel less thirsty. So you'll have to set yourself reminders. You'll have to set up rituals. When I get up, I have a ritual. I have coffee every morning. I'm not going to stop. That's not happening. And the research shows that the coffee is not so bad. But I supplement it. I also have an electrolyte drink that I will have each morning that starts me. I eat fruits, vegetables, soups, water-rich foods. But then for the fastest relief, if you watch my videos, I recommend these. This is a portable mesh nebulizer. I make sure it's rechargeable because these things go through batteries. And then what these do is this is 0.9% saline solution or isotonic solution. You put this into the reservoir, and what it does is this is not steam. If it was steam, it would leave the saline behind. This is actually being pushed through this micro mesh into very tiny particles. This isotonic solution is very close to the body, and it is readily absorbed by the vocal folds and stays on the surface. I do not recommend a brand. This is a no-name brand. I grab whatever's on sale. You can get them for 40 or 50 bucks. Just keep them clean. I run like 150 degree water through that. What would that be would that be 60? That'd be 60 Celsius, I believe. Close enough. Yeah. Yeah. Times 2 plus 30. And I will flush that out. I do this every time before I have to use my voice. I did this before I came on today. I'll do it after. I do it all through practice. There is that. And then I also recommend talk to your doctor if you have lung issues. This is, and Tracy's at the ready to spell it because it's hard to spell. This is guafenicin. Guafenicin is an expectorant. It thins mucus. It's the active ingredient in Mucinex, but this is generic. It's cheap. It doesn't have the other stuff in it. Talk to your doctor. I have talked to my general practitioner as well as my laryngologist. They said it's fine for me. I will take 400 milligrams once or twice a day. That does it for me. That really helps, as well as a nasal rinse. You can use a neti pot. I use this Neomed sinus rinse. But basically, this flushes out your nasal passages if you have postnasal drip. but we have to get this mucus thin. We've got to keep this mucus thin and plentiful. Helen, I'm 70, was a singer, then stopped 8 years ago. Now it's all cracking, lots of mucus and no range. I need to start exercising the voice again. Not sure how. Is there a warm-up video? Well, Helen, yes, go to on this YouTube channel. There are warm-up videos. There's specifically a workout video for female voices or higher voices. And there's also one for lower voice types, male voices. I will say, in the men versus women category, many more views on the higher voice female version. So guys need to catch up. But yes, I have lots of great resources on here. I'm going to be putting together playlists for the channel as well. So there's a lot here for you. Not singing for 8 years from 62 to 70, that's going to have an effect. You are going to be experiencing weakness. You're going to be experiencing stiffness. You're going to be experiencing atrophy. Have patience with yourself. If you get on a consistent program, I will tell you that in 6 months' time, give yourself 6 months. Do this at least 5 days a week, 20 minutes a day. Don't take more than a week off at a time. Do this for 6 months and your voice will be completely different. You can get so much of your voice back. But the best time to start is today. Let's see. Ed, not sure if this is being discussed. Is using a voice tuner app bad? How is it best to use this in learning pitch matching? Here's the way I look at it is I don't recommend it, number one, because what you're doing now is your voice is following this value that you see on a screen. And also, the voice does not stay in perfect tune. I don't care how good of a singer you are. The voice has constant fluctuations. And if you're trying to get this thing right at 0, you're going to watch it popping up +4, -2, +8, right? You're going to watch this thing bopping up and down. What I recommend is the most important thing for singing in tune is we have to start here. We have to start at the brain. There's a skill called audiation. Audiation is the ability to create pitch in the mind. That's what you want to do. Here's a simple exercise you can do is go to a keyboard. There are piano keyboards online. You can just, that'll come up and you press a key, just press a random key in your comfortable range. And then make that pitch in your mind and make it as loud as you can. And then sing it. That is what you need to do. You need to create it in your mind, and then we need to connect it to the voice. What will happen is people who are struggling with pitch, it's a combination of they haven't developed the audiation muscle strongly enough yet, and then they don't really have their vocal technique together. They haven't really hooked these two up. So they're fighting themselves. Get the mind going first, and then the voice will follow. Let's see. Rexy says, I noticed that if I belt, I cannot sing very high in head voice, like my vocal range ceiling has been lowered. Am I doing too much on the belting? Is there a safe amount to keep in my full range? This is a huge subject. I will say that ultimately, your belt voice is not going to go as high as your head voice. So whatever your extreme range is in your head voice, you're not going to belt much beyond that. Belting tends to start to drop out for high voices, female voices. This G, an octave and a half above middle C, or G5, kind of where that starts to max out. For lower voice types, male voice types, the belt can start to max out at the B flat, maybe the C, um, sometimes even the E flat. It just depends on the voice. Now, if your belt is being done with too heavy a mechanism, if the belt is too forceful, if the voice is pressing too much, then that belt ceiling is going to be lowered dramatically. There is a skill in healthy belt. Uh, Unhealthy belt is pretty unhealthy. You wanna watch it because you can get yourself a horse pretty quick. Belt is something that I love to teach. Again, in voice school, there's a whole course on belting. Um, and I've worked with people who are incredible belters. It's probably my favorite thing to teach, actually, is to help somebody just belt like crazy without that excess tension. A lot of belt, and belt is a pretty high level skill. It's in the vowel, it's in tuning the vowel. And so anything you do towards that and getting that voice balance, getting your chest voice, getting your head voice, getting your mix between, and then starting to build that intensity will take you towards a good belt. Let me see. My name is Candace and I'm 74. Hi, Candace. My high register sounds good in vocalizing, but when I'm in performance, it's as if I'm afraid, and sometimes the higher notes don't even sound. Yeah, this is not uncommon. We have what we're able to do in practice, and then we have what we're able to do in performance. The more you perform, or at least the idea is, the closer you can come to what it is that you can achieve in practice. But it's rare that will reach that complete level. But what I would do is I would even record your next performance and go through it. And I know, so for us, that can be painful because we don't like our hearing ourselves, and it's often not flattering. Just recording yourself on the phone, and it doesn't really capture how you sound in the room, etc. But you can really pinpoint where you're having problems, things to look for. Where is it in your voice that you're tending to have these problems? Um, is it high register? Whereabouts in the high register? Is it at the extreme? Is it at the beginning of your upper register? Are there certain vowels that are causing you trouble? When you do have trouble, what is it that you notice? Do they fall apart or do they get tense? When you have that, you can systematically begin to chip away at those issues. The key of learning to sing, and YouTube is full of great information. There's fantastic voice teachers on here giving out fantastic information. But it ultimately needs to be about your voice, and each voice is completely unique, and not just the voice itself, but the human being, the psyche, the self that is driving that voice is completely unique. The architecture of the brain, what's allotted for rhythm and for pitch, it's all different for each one of us. So we really have to figure out how my voice works. Um, I was watching a video, the guitarist for Rage Against the Machine, Tom Morello, talked about how when he was younger, he wanted a custom guitar like his heroes. And he was searching for this ultimate guitar, and he paid all this money for this custom guitar, and he said it was awful. So he took this guitar that wasn't his dream guitar, and he took his equipment and decided, for better or worse, I'm working with this, and this is my sound. That's what we need to do as singers. We need to really figure out, look, this is my instrument. I don't get to have Pavarotti's instrument or Benson Boone's instrument. I get this instrument. So how do I, with this brain and this experience and the way I hear and think about music, make this work? So it's really, you become a detective of your own voice and really start figuring that out. Pete, I'm totally blown away by the answer to your question. Oh, good. Good. I'm glad. Glad. Um, Lori, I don't have a mucus problem. I have the opposite and started using a mesh nebulizer with some vocal improvement so far. So, yeah, mucus, we're all different. And how the body produces mucus, and it changes depending on our age. It also changes depending on our environment, our eating habits, our hydration habits, all of these. And then the mesh nebulizer, it definitely helps. Now, it's interesting. They looked at um, male and female with mesh nebulizers, and the female voice tends to get more of a change by utilizing the mesh nebulizer. And it is thought that even if you're breathing through your nasal passage, it is a shorter distance before it hits your vocal folds than the average male voice. So when we breathe through our nose, the air is a bit more moisturized, but I use the nebulizer constantly. Also, um, anyone who's having trouble with high notes, I got to tell you, working with straws will really, really change it. I use, coming back to this Dr. Vox, this comes with a mask. And when I put this mask on here, what I'm able to do is I'm able to sing the high notes fully into this mask. So if, or what is it? There it is, somebody to love. And if I'm struggling on somebody, that's high. But if I, somebody to love, this, what it does, it's kind of magic. It raises the air pressure above your vocal cords. When that air pressure is higher, it takes less air pressure and effort below the vocal cords to start them to vibrate. And the straw, also the voice straw, straws in a cup, same thing. Ah! When you feel that, as Dr. Ingo Titze, who really has done a lot of research into working with straws and these semi-occluded vocal tract exercises, he says something I love. The body remembers. You work with straws, the high notes will feel easier. And you go back and forth from your treble high note to a straw. Sing it back and forth. Show your body what it feels like rather than me telling you what it should feel like, or a voice teacher telling you what it should feel like. These are the ultimate training wheels for the voice. And you don't have to buy anything. Get a bendy straw and water and just use it in water. This is also by the voice straw. These are made to go into. So this is a bigger one. There are different sizes, different resistance. The further I put this into the water, the more resistance. And you'll play with it and kind of find your sweet spot where the voice really feels nice and open and ease of production. Sorry, a little more tea here. Great questions. When I use my hearing aids, my voice fades away and can make no sound from my throat. My hearing specialist told me to stop wearing aids and sent a letter to my doctor waiting to see voice specialist. Um, this is a question I'm not sure about. The way we hear the voice. So a hearing aid, yeah, I don't know enough about hearing aids. I'm sorry. But I'll just talk about the way that we hear our voice and see if this helps explain some of this for you. Is we don't just get sound coming from the outside to our ears when it's us making the sound. People, when they hear a recording of themselves, will say, do I really sound like that? And the answer is yes to everyone else and no, not to you. That's not what you sound like to you, because we hear a lot through bone conduction to the inner ear. And this bone conduction is very important. Um, Now, I have worked with very successful background singers who've toured with like major artists, huge artists. And one in particular, very often you don't get the greatest monitor mix when you're a backup singer. It's the star who's making sure that they can hear themselves properly. So she has learned to sing perfectly in tune without being able to truly hear herself. She guides by the vibrations because everything around her is so loud. So that is also a way to do this. Our brains, no matter our age, still have neuroplasticity, which means the brain can change and adapt. And the brain, when we have a challenge, when we want to do something and we keep pushing to do it, the brain will find a way to do it. It may have to rewire. With my vocal tremor, I had to rewire the connection of my brain to my voice. I had to rewire my coordinations and what my baseline of speaking was. Because if I didn't, if I just let everything drop, this is my voice now, how am I going to be a voice teacher if that's how I sound? I mean, I would still have my same ears and skills, but come on, you'd listen to 10 seconds of me and change the video. So I had to go through a lot of work. The voice can change. The brain can change. As I tell people, if you can still phonate, if you can still make sound, you're still in the game. Your voice still has potential that you can realize. Someone is asking, are there foods to avoid also? Or lip uh, trills, bubbles, good vocal warm-up exercises to clear mucus? So foods to avoid, well, it depends on each person, right? If I have celiac disease, then I'm not going to have gluten. If I'm lactose intolerant, I'm not going to have dairy. Um, Dairy is one of those foods that I also think there is a mouthfeel about dairy. Like you never see a singer recording, practicing with a glass of full fat milk sitting at the ready because just the mouthfeel of dairy and the butter fat, it just kind of coats everything and just makes everything feel thick and gloppy. Um, but what you do want to avoid, really, as a singer, is when you eat before bed, because that can really affect the voice. And um, I don't eat a minimum of 2.5, 3 hours before I go to sleep because I want everything digested. Now, I will say on Valentine's Day, um, I did eat much closer to bedtime, and I spent that night sleeping sitting up because I knew that I would have reflux if I laid down. I could feel it, and that's when that pepsin in the stomach comes up and burns the vocal cords. You don't want that. Lip bubbles are great for everything. Lip bubbles, if there's going to be something you do all day, every time you think about it, if you can do a lip bubble, do them. If you can't, do a raspberry. Those work great as well. Tongue trills. Yes. Clearing away mucus, you're getting this healthy, unforced vibration of the vocal folds, phonation. And that helps clear away the mucus. So lip bubble, lip bubble, lip bubble. Lip bubbles are also great for if you have closure issues. They did a study where they had took a group of singers with closure issues. They had the control group just do their regular routine. The other group, they had them do lip bubbles throughout the day whenever they thought about it. And they had an improvement over the control group in terms of vocal fold closure. So it can help rebuild that strength in the vocal cords because as we age, they can bow and that creates weakness and poor tone. Yeah, if Lori says environment makes a huge difference. The church I sing in is a huge problem. Every time my vocal cords get dry and hoarse after being in there for only a few minutes. Yeah, that's tricky. Especially in winter, right? Things can get dry. I keep something called a hygrometer. And a hygrometer, yeah, they're cheap on Amazon. It'll tell you like the temperature and it'll also tell you the relative humidity in your environment. Um, Keep one in your bedroom if you live in a dry environment. Keep one in your bedroom. And when that drops below 45%, run a humidifier. And it's actually good for your health because germs love dry air. They float more through dry air. But run that. You want humidity between 45 and 55%. If it's over 55%, do not run it because you can get into possible mold issues. So that I would do. Ricola or other mouth drops dry out the vocal cords. You know, nothing touches the vocal cords directly. So I wouldn't say yes. I got sick. I got like one of the worst colds of my life. Like I would have sworn it was the flu, but it was too early for flu season. I think this was back in October, early November. And I just couldn't stop coughing. And I went through two family-sized bags of Ricola because the one thing you don't want as a singer is coughing. So I don't find that it dries out my vocal cords. But I should look into that more if there's maybe an ingredient that could possibly do that. Some of the things, menthol, there will be warnings about because that can dull our senses a bit. It can be slightly numbing, which can be good if there's pain, but with the voice, it can maybe blur our sensitivity and our guidance with our voice. And so maybe we can overuse the voice a bit more than we should. Um, Let me see. Mesh nebulizer again, basic option. Um, so a mesh nebulizer, they have one that is marketed to for singers, and it's about $170, and it's great. Um, I tend to go through mesh nebulizers for me. They last 6 to 8 months, maybe a bit more. You have to make sure you keep them clean, but basic, what you want. These are the words that you want. You want the mesh nebulizer to be portable, right? You don't want this big machine. You want it that you're able to just pick it up and walk around with it. So it is a portable mesh nebulizer. It's not a nebulizer, it's a mesh nebulizer. It creates extra fine particles and then I make sure it's rechargeable. You can get somebody, I don't know if what website he was on, but a student of mine said he found them for like 10 or $15. They were battery charged, but he just kept them plugged into a USB plug. I like mine to be portable, so I make sure they are rechargeable. If you use batteries, they use AA batteries and they burn through them like it's so wasteful. So that is the key. And then that's it. It's simple. There's no set time that you're supposed to use it. I will do it for a few minutes before I'm going to use my voice, and I'll do it all through my vocal practice. If I'm teaching, I'll just grab at it while I'm teaching. It just keeps the vocal folds moist. When they did the initial studies and they had singers breathe dry air from a tank, and then they actually put different substances in here. And the thing that stuck was the isotonic. That worked the best, and it stayed on the vocal folds for at least 20 minutes after use. Having said that, don't don't be tempted to make your own because whatever is in that solution, if there's bacteria, if there's anything, this is not boiled. It's not like a steamer that's just going to give you the distilled steam. Everything that's in this chamber goes through and deep into your lungs. And then I saw someone on one of my videos said to use hydrogen peroxide. And don't do this. I looked into it, and apparently this is a thing. Um, do not breathe hydrogen peroxide mist into your lungs, please. Make sure this is 0.9% saline solution. I get 5 milliliters. They come in these little plastic tubes. Yes, someone pointed out that this is wasteful. That's a lot of plastic. There's really no other way to get this to you in a sterilized condition, unfortunately. But this is what I use. Are there good words, Helen asks, to learn to trill your R's, both in the front and back of the mouth? So the front, what you can do is, if you can't do it, you can just start off with da-da, da-da, like fast D's, da-da, da-da, and then see if you can just da-da, da-da, ra, 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 ra. I like ra, but da-da, 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 ra, ra. The back, I can't do it. I can't trill in the back. I remember back in my gigging days, and I would sing Pretty Woman by Roy Orbison, and he would do that, wow, with that beautiful guttural rolling, and I couldn't do it. I just have to go, rawr. It wasn't effective. Um, okay, yes, slippery elm rather than menthol. You are correct. Thank you. Yep, that tends to be the better solution. Um, most voice specialists will warn you about menthol, but I really like, again, I like the throat coat tea. So I will drink that throughout the day myself. Let's see. Any other questions? Let me see. There's some. Can I recommend a daily routine for keeping the voice in shape? Um, well, a daily routine, if you can dedicate 20 minutes and then or more as you build this up, you're not going to go much more than 40, 45 minutes on a vocal practice session, a really focused session. If you want to practice more than that, split it up between an earlier and a later session. But 20 minutes a day, about 5 minutes of warm-ups. So warm-ups are gentle things like lip bubbles, narrow vowels, things like coo, 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 coo. One of the things I love to do is just hold falsetto. Gently bring that down. And then you get into 10 minutes or so of more focused vocal work. So you're doing exercises, you're doing sustains, you're working on vowels, and then maybe 10 minutes or so of doing song work. And song work should not just be singing a song from beginning to end over and over. So you may just sing it once through to get the song under you, and then you really focus on the problem areas and work on balancing that. Let's see. All right. Yes. Vocal exercises, we do make some strange sounds. I will say, my son, when he was very young, he was like 8 or 9 years old, and he said, "Dad, you just have people make baby sounds for a living." I went, "That's fair enough." Um, Breath work to strengthen the lungs. So the lungs themselves, right, don't have strength. It's just elastic tissue. It's the muscles around. So great breath work. Resistance. If you don't have a breather voice, you can breathe in like you're trying to slurp in very narrow spaghetti. Feel that expansion. Now, keep that expansion. I love Carrie Obert gave me this visual that kicks in my support. She said, okay, Superman able to stop a speeding locomotive. She goes, okay, so you're Superman, you're going to stop that speeding locomotive. And I feel my core engage and press out. And I keep this Superman stance and then exhale on a hiss while keeping that intensity, that pressing out at the core. What we don't want for singing is for it all to just collapse. That's relaxed breathing, but that's not breathing for singing. So that is essential. What temperature is best to have water to hydrate? It's generally accepted room temperature. Hot water. Obviously, you can scald the voice. Very cold water. You're going to cause the things to tighten up. We have fascia in the body. It's this netting that basically holds us all together. It's continuous. It weaves all through the muscles. It's quite amazing. And there's some work being done amongst voice teachers to really bring in the understanding of the fascia into the voice. Jeremy Ryan Mossman is a leader in this. He's brilliant. But when we get tension anywhere in the voice, or in the body, it radiates. There's a famous book on fascia called "One Thing Moves, Everything Moves." So when you get things that are right, that cold water and that shock, that can radiate down, even though it's not necessarily touching the voice. So we want to keep everything warm. So room temperature to slightly warm water is good. Is it okay to work on both belting and falsetto or head voice, or is that something that should be split up? No, you should work on everything. So falsetto is a fantastic way to get the voice warmed up. It's a fantastic way to just start touching the vocal folds together. And falsetto is not just one sound. Falsetto, there is a range. It's on a continuum. So there's very hollow falsetto. There's more focused. That's both falsetto. So I will work on a more focused, and then I'll bring it down. And the reason I do this is because my voice with the tremor, and also I have a heavier voice, it tends to want to lock up. But then you also want to work on just in between mix, and then you want to work on your belt. The difference between falsetto and belt, there are two things going on. There are two primary things going on in your voice at any one time. The first is what's happening at the vocal folds, right? The vocal folds adjust for pitch. They're short and fat on low notes, and then they stretch and thin and get tighter for higher notes. But the other important thing is how much they come together and how long they stay together. How long do they stay closed? The longer they stay closed, the more energy is in the sound wave. So right there's the difference between falsetto and belt. You have a longer closed phase at the vocal cords or vocal folds in belt. They're staying together longer. They're coming together with more intensity. Then the other thing, the acoustics. In falsetto, we are tuning the vocal tract to not boost a lot of high frequency. It's very hollow sounding. Whereas in belt, hey, now that has much more high frequency in it. And there is a different tuning of the vowel to boost that and have that bite and that intensity. So you're working different coordinations all the time. There's singing is very complex. And ultimately, it just needs to be driven by your intent, your emotion, your musicality. But to dial this in, you're teaching your voice, this instrument, to do a lot. It's balancing a lot of different things. So you want to work everything. You don't just have to isolate. I have a hard time singing through a straw. I think it might use too much air. How hard or easy should it feel? So the first thing is the diameter of the straw is very important. If the straw is too narrow, then you will be working too hard. And the resistance of the straw can change depending on if you're just starting to warm up or if your voice you're warmed up for the day. Usually you can take more resistance when you're warmed up. That's why straw kits will have different size straws. So on this, I have this bigger drink straw, and then I have one that's more like a coffee stir straw. The coffee stir straws, they also give you two shorter ones. This is from the voice straw. And so you can use both at the same time. So you play with the resistance. If you're using a straw in water, um, test how far into the water it should go. Here's what you should feel. You should feel a bit of a like a bullfrog throat. You should feel some expansion, but you shouldn't be working so hard. If you're working too hard, there may be too much resistance on the straw. You're pushing too hard, too much air, or both. I saw you do a demo to exercise a. Oh, hold on. I'm jumping here. Endless wants to know what warm up can be done to strengthen breath control and support. The semi-occluded warm ups are great because semi-occluded vocal tract exercises, which is a mouthful, it just means that there's some obstruction, there's some semi-partial occlusion in the system. What that does is that pushes back, it creates back pressure, which helps regulate the system. So it's easier to sing, it's easier to control the breath. When you use a straw and water, one of the things you can do is track the bubbles. But they should be steady. If all of a sudden the bubbles die away or they start surging, that's telling you that there's an issue with the support and the flow of air. You want to keep them relatively steady. So I recommend SOVTs all the time. They're not magic. You can't, and the danger with them is you can be too passive with them and just let them do the work. But they should be part of your vocal routine. Helen saw me do a demo of an exercise to clear the throat. Can you show that here? It was like a ha with a swallow. Yes. Like you're going to fog up a mirror. That pushes the phlegm. The idea is it's pushing the mucus off the cords, and then you tuck your chin and swallow, which I was told I get this from a ear, nose, and throat doctor who is actually, I don't know if he still is, but he was the voice doctor for American Idol. And that's the exercise he showed me. And so it's that and the swallow. Let's see. I've been called a true contralto. I'm moving away from singing to voice acting, and nerves are limiting my range, breath, and confidence. Any suggestion? So a true contralto is rare, just like a true bass is rare. So you are the lowest female voice type. So voiceover and voice acting makes sense. If you are feeling that your nerves are limiting everything, one of the best things you can do is find a community where you can start to sing in front of other people. As Carol D'Andrea, the acting coach, told me, the only way around is through. You've got to do it. In voice school, we have a community, and it is vitally important that people have a safe place to sing. So we have vocal challenges where we pick a theme and people upload themselves singing a song from this theme, and everyone, it's all just encouraging and positive. You can upload your voice. We have the open mic where you can upload yourself singing and get encouragement. People who are on our higher level, our premium level, they can get analysis on their uploads. I also do hot seat coaching calls where people come on and live. I'm working with everyone's voices in a group environment. It's all encouraging. Find something like that. Find a community. You've got to do it for that to start to calm down. It's just a matter of doing it. Now, There is a point where anxiety can become so extreme that medical intervention or professional intervention is necessary. A little bit of nerves, a little bit of butterflies is good. Performers want that. It actually helps us gear up and perform better. But there's a level where that becomes detrimental. If you had a strong virus like COVID flu, how does one build back up the voice in a safe way after a layoff from illness? The first thing, just gentle exercises. What we need to do is we need to just imagine you've sprained your ankle. Now, they used to just have you not use it at all, but now they've realized that no, you need to keep that ankle moving because it can stiffen up and other problems can happen. So as soon as it's not painful, just little tiny gentle glides. Ooh, ooh. With my voice, as I was coming back from that sickness uh, 2.5 months ago, and I coughed for about 6 weeks. It was ridiculous. Just little just coaxing my vocal cords back together, just gentle phonation, stretching, gliding, and you'll feel. And then just if it starts to not feel right, just stop. Just at first, just a few minutes here and there throughout the day. With that, I would do small amounts all through the day rather than try and do one long session. That's not going to work. I'm having an issue with harmonizing well. Is there a rule for this? Well, yes, there are rules for harmony. Now, harmony is interesting because our brains have real estate allotted to them that we're kind of born with. And for myself, musically, I was given an extra dose of rhythm. My real estate for rhythm is larger. I will tell you, I was fascinated with drums at a young age. And the first time I was maybe, I think like 10 years old, 11 years old. And I was over at a friend's house and he got a drum kit. And I was fascinated. I'd never been on a drum kit before. And I asked if I could play it. We were upstairs in his room. And I played around on his drums. When we came downstairs, his mother said to him, "Oh my gosh, you must be practicing. You sound so much better." Well, that was me. It just came naturally. Harmony, I struggle with. I will tell you, that is not something I have trouble picking out harmony the way that I hear. I wasn't given as much real estate for that. Tracy, who's on this, she is brilliant with harmony. She can pick out wild harmonies in any music that we're listening to, where I really have to work it. So you'll probably have to break it down. When I would have to sing harmony, I would record my harmony part and make sure that I heard it as the melody so that I didn't get pulled away. I would have to work extra hard at it when I had to perform it. There's also usually in a chord, you have the root, the third, the fifth, a major chord or a minor chord, and people will say like, "Oh, okay, I'll take the third," which is going to be generally a third above the melody. So if the melody's here, the harmony is the third above it. Some people say I'll take the fifth. And that's in general. Harmonies can get very complex, especially in jazz. I mean, you can start getting chords, these really colorful rub notes and this beautiful dissonance where you have to be really, really spot on, or else it just falls apart. So let's see any other. Someone had a question on SOVT. Let's see. What are SOVTs? I saw someone say that at one point. An SOVT, it's just kind of like fancy voice teacher talk. It stands for semi, partially occluded or blocked, partially blocked vocal tract. There is some partial obstruction in your vocal tract. And that partial obstruction can be your lips, your tongue, zzz, or a trill. It can be using a straw. That's a partial obstruction. what the partial obstruction does is it actually starts to push back on the voice. It's not like it's able to just travel freely. There is a pushback, and that pushback pushes back pressure. And that pushback of pressure raises the pressure above your vocal cords. And this is pretty wild. But the higher the pressure is above your vocal cords, the less pressure it takes below. The amount of pressure it takes below your vocal cords is a very important value. The higher that is, the harder it is to sing. The lower that is, the easier it is to sing. So these SOVTs make it much easier to sing. So when I sing something through a straw, that SOVT, that partial obstruction of the straw, makes it easier for me to feel it. And then I can translate that feeling to singing without the straw. So when I say SOVTs, that's the voice teacher, voice world slang for the semi-occluded vocal tract. So let's see. All right, everyone. Well, great. That's been a quick hour. Thank you so much for staying with us. And we shall do this again. Subscribe to the channel and all that stuff. Hit the notification button. Please do spread the word on the channel. The more people that watch the channel, the more I'm able to do this. So if you find this information helpful, the way you can support the channel and keep all this for free is to spread the word. I truly appreciate it. So we will do this again. Take care.